Welcome, everyone, to Voices, a library lecture series. I'm Stephen Onley, the Director of Military and Veteran Success here at Hudson Valley Community College. Served in the Army for 7 years with the 82nd Airborne Division, deployed to Afghanistan back in 2009, and I'm just really honored to have been asked to host this for us. We'd like to begin with an acknowledgement that we are gathered on the sacred homelands of the Mohikaniak, or Mohican people, who are the stewards of this land. Today, the community resides in Wisconsin and is known as the Stockbridge-Munsee Mohican Nation. We pay honor and respect to their ancestors, past and present. Voices present speakers on timely and enduring issues each semester to broaden and enrich the scope of studies at Hudson Valley Community College. Today, Voices welcomes Imran Khan. Imran is a recent graduate of HVCC, class of 2024, where he earned academic honors and was named to the Spring 2024 President's List. A former interpreter for the U.S. Army in Afghanistan, his experience continues to shape his worldview and fuels his advocacy for those left behind. Now living in the capital region, Imran has launched a mobile tailoring business and runs an online clothing store at khonscloset.com. In addition to his entrepreneurial work, Imran is an aspiring writer. He is developing stories that weave together his lived experiences with fiction, exploring themes such as displacement, dignity, and survival. A pleasant welcome to Imran Khan.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the presentation today. And thanks to those who organized and sponsored the event. As you guys know, I am a former U.S. Army interpreter in Afghanistan. My work ended with the U.S. Army in 2012, and I immigrated to the U.S. in 2017. During those 5 years, I had no one to speak English to. I lost a lot of my English vocabulary and my fluency. When I finally came here, I was speaking very basic English. One day, I was riding with my friend in his car. We stopped at a red light. A man was going down the street. He was humming, cursing, and kind of stumbling. He was in a rough shape, but words were flowing from his mouth. My friend took a deep sigh as if something heavy struck him. And I asked what happened, and he pointed to the man, and he said, what I desire the most right now is that man's tongue. So I feel like to express myself well today, I need that man's tongue. Anyway, I was born into a very humble, very poor family, of course, Muslims. Please don't hold that against me. Both of my parents were illiterate. My father learned to write his name when he was 40 years old. and that was the only word he ever learned. He would say that because of his illiteracy, he lose a lot of wealth. And if he wasn't illiterate, if he could read and write, he would have made a lot of money and we wouldn't have to live in poverty. So, feeling the pain of illiteracy, he made sure his children go to school. And because of his determination, I was able to start my religious and secular education very early on in my life. I would go to school in the morning, and in the evening, I would go to the mosque. In the mosque, people would sometimes donate food, and I would often return home with my belly full. But in school, it was different. By noon, when I would feel hungry, I would, even though there was always something for me to eat when I would get home, but it would keep me worrying. And by the end of the day, I would be both physically and emotionally strained. I'm sorry for the glitches, I'm a little nervous. So by the middle school, I had learned a lot about Islam. And from the Quran, I learned that the non-Muslims, disbelievers, they were destined for eternal hell. So sometime when I would think of the non-Muslims, for some odd reason, I would think of Europeans. Maybe because of their influence on our culture, or I don't know. And Europeans, in my mind, wasn't just Europeans. They included Americans too. I'm sorry. I thought it's just two names for two different kind of people. I'm sorry, two different names for one demographics. So from news and television, I learned that these people, they're living quite luxurious lives, abundant, and they have everything. And sometime thinking of them burning in hell forever, I would sometime would feel pity for them. But sometime when I would imagine my fellow humans burning in hell forever, it would hurt me. And one night when I closed my eyes, I kind of meditated, and I imagined them burning in hell forever. I flinched out of pain, and my entire body shook out of fear. And that night, when I came home, I was massaging my mother's feet. The room was pitch dark, and I couldn't see her, but I could hear her clearly. I could hear her even breathing. So, troubled by the idea of these fellow humans burning in hell, I asked her, why was it so? And then she took a deep breath. Then silence fell between us. And after a minute or so, they are God's creature, she said. And God will make a way for them out of hell. At that time, I didn't know what to do with her answer, but it would come to me again and again. When I immigrated to the US, the tables kind of turned. I started to question my faith more seriously. And I would ask, like, if we have the truth, why are we so backward? Or if we have God's words, why aren't we advanced like these other people? So among many other questions, um, these were some that weighed heavy on me, and just before pandemic, I fell into some kind of depression. And when I lost my job during pandemic, I suddenly had a lot of time to study. And I really wanted to know what we have is true. So that's where I found an online free library which has about 10,000 books, or I would say more than 10,000 books. Most of the work is Islamic, but it also has work on spirituality, um, um, lots of biographies. It has psychology, it has history, so lots of, it also covers different topics. I read so many books from that library that when I would download a new book, I felt like I was barely getting any new information. Even though it questioned some of my, it answered some of my questions, but I still had many more. So I needed a different channel. I turned to YouTube, and I watched videos of people converting from religion to other religion, from their religion to other religions. So, like Muslims turning to Christianity, Christians converting to Islam, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists also looking for something else, stuff like that. And some of the people who converted to Islam, I found some of the arguments so compelling that I thought what we have might be true. But I would also listen to the counter arguments that which would finally, fill my head with questions again. During that struggle, I stumbled upon another Muslim teacher whose video sounded very compelling. So he said that his videos are all over on YouTube, but if you want an organized approach to his videos, you should sign up for his channel. And I said, $11 a month, not a big deal. I signed up. When I signed up, I found that more than 2,000 of hours of work was already uploaded to their channel. And you may not believe it, in the span of a year, I was done with all those videos and lectures intended for advanced studies in Islamic studies. He did answer some of my questions, but I still felt empty. And that's when I found myself walking at the middle of the night, looking at the sky, at the stars and the moon. And I would pray to God to guide me to the truest path. One night, I saw a star, and it somehow it brought the NASA into my mind. When I returned home, I searched for their website, and I read a few articles, watched a few videos and images. That little search opened a new door to science. What started with that search later spread to human anatomy, biology, and more astronomy. I read their article. I would constantly read their articles. But when I still found myself lost, I felt that I needed some kind of formal education. And that's when I came to, in 2021, I came to Hudson Valley Community College. When I sat with my academic advisor, she asked me what I was up to. And I said, I want to learn English, and at that time, I was interested in Christianity. I said, if there is a class that teaches Bible. And she said that we don't have a class that is entirely dedicated to Christianity, but we have works on spirituality, philosophy, and comparative religion. So I wasn't interested in philosophy, thinking that it would further me away from God. Then I was silent, and she probably read confusion on my face, and she said, why not you just start with English? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And she enrolled me for English reading comprehension in general psychology. She said that there is a lot of reading in it. And for writing and speaking, she said that Comp 1 will be a better option for you. And she also enrolled me in another class, was time management and self-improvement. I got busy with work. I like weekly schedules as a student, and I had my full-time job. So the faith crisis, even though I didn't forget about it, but it kind of went under the rug. And in my later semesters, I took more psychology, I took even philosophy, but I found it different than what I was thinking about it initially. I took lots of English classes. Um, but in 2024, just before my last semester, my faith crisis surfaced again. And there was one class that I hadn't tried yet. I say, let's try that too. It was the class of comparative religion. So when I enrolled in that class, it opened my eyes to something that once I see, I couldn't ignore. It inspired me to the question, why religion start in the first place? And when I began to read and research on that, I found that when religion began, it wasn't just sets of rules and rituals. It was a direct response to the human condition. Even though about Hinduism, there is no beginning point in that book that we were reading, but it grew, it developed a rich literature understanding human life and how to bring happiness to human beings. Buddhism parted its ways with tradition to bring freedom to the human mind. Confucianism took a more political and moral approach to improving human society. Islam came in a time of deep corruption. It didn't just promise people a paradise in the afterlife, but also a better life right here on the planet. Christianity began with Jesus standing against corruption, inspiring people to living with dignity, hope, and purpose. In short, the starting point for all these religions was simple: to improve the human condition. But something happened. Over time, all these religions turned into cultures. And the rituals and the tradition grew mechanical, hollow, and out of this original spirit. How did that happen? I wouldn't go into a lot of details, but just to give you a little preview of that in later generations, a man came in and he saw the people were really, so I kind of messed up here. The religion drew a line for people, for its believers, that as long as you live in that circle, you will be okay. But if you go out of that circle, there might be consequences. So in later generations, someone came in and he saw that people were really close to that original circle. And he interpreted the text and drew another circle inside the circle. And then another, until the circle was um, so tight that the believers couldn't breathe. And that's when I don't see that anywhere clear more than in Afghanistan today. Under the government of Taliban, the circle is so tight that people cannot breathe anymore. They enforce the religion through punishment instead of fighting poverty, hunger, and disease. And that's what brings me to the heart of the matter. Why are we here today? Before I begin with my slides, I will just give a real-world scenario, which works, I think, everywhere the same. So just think about the Taliban's attacking on the U.S. And people, some of the Americans join their army or become interpreters for them. What is the public view about these people who join the Taliban? Obviously, people will say they're traitors, they're disloyal, and stuff like that. It works in Afghanistan the same way. People who work with the military, they call them traitors, disbelievers, and the punishment for the traitors and the disbelievers is nothing less than death or maybe jail if they're a little easy on them. But they made a promise when they came to power. They said, we are going to forgive all the people who work with the U.S. Army, and there would be no retribution. But of course, they hanged people, they killed people, and they tortured people. I would just skip that one because of time. For the interpreters, there was a company, the name was MEP, Mission Essential Personnel, because without the interpreters, the U.S. Army couldn't do their job. So they called them Mission Essential Personnel. So we have to be on site to be, for the Americans to do their job. And for that purpose, the U.S. government started another program for interpreters that is called SIV, Special Immigration Visas, for those if there, and it was a promise that if there was a retribution against you guys because of working with the U.S. Army, so we will support you. We will give you special immigration visas, and we will take you out of that country and will give you safety for your lives. So when Afghanistan fell into the hands of the Taliban, at that time and even before, we would talk to the U.S. soldiers, and they would talk to us how much the people loved them. And lots of them, even me, at that time, I realized that we are doing the same thing. And if I go there, I would have the same love and the same welcome, which obviously I did. People welcomed me, people honored me, but we weren't like, completely the U.S. Army. We were interpreters, we were different from the U.S. Army, but we thought we were the same people. Nurhan Zadran, um, who was a member of the US-backed special forces in Afghanistan, was evacuated from the US, from Afghanistan when the democracy fell. In the rush, he left his wife and his children behind. He survived years of service alongside the US Army, only to lose his life in a car accident in America. Before his death, he told me bringing his family to the US would be easier once he is here. But after he passed away, the State Department dismissed his children's case, stating that because the father was deceased, they could no longer emigrate to the US. And these are his three children, was a son and two daughters. Just think about this woman's life against under the government of Taliban. She cannot work, and she is supporting these three beautiful children. It's just tough on her. I talked not directly to her, with her family, and we're completely devastated by the State Department decision that the children can no longer come to this country. Another example is Mustafa Haidari, who worked in a U.S. Army base where the U.S. Army and Polish Army resided. He was working with the Polish Army. After working for about 2 years, MEP, the company, fired him because they found him taking a selfie with a pistol. After being fired by the company, the US Army, the intelligence section, contacted him directly, and they hired him. He worked for the intelligence for about 8 years. During evacuation, he was evacuated to Poland, he and his family. He was still pursuing his special immigration visas case, but there he received a letter from the US Embassy stating that he was a terrorist and could no longer enter the US soil. So last week I was talking to him, and he said that if I was intending anything to do against the US government, he said that he had phones, he had other devices of the US intelligence. If he wanted to, he could do that where he was in Afghanistan. He wasn't a terrorist, he has no felony, no misdemeanor, and I talked to his officers who he worked with directly, and they issued recommendation letters. They even sent letters to the U.S. Embassy, but nothing helped. This is his picture. Is Mustafa Haidari. This is the certificate of appreciation he got from Polish Army. A recommendation letter from the U.S. Army to come to the U.S. Another recommendation letter from the U.S. Army. And these are just a couple of examples. I have a lot of other recommendation letters that he received from the U.S. Army. This is his certificate of appreciation from the Interior Ministry from Afghanistan. He was able to develop trust between all the three groups, like within the Afghanistan, with the Polish army, and with the U.S. Army, even though initially he wasn't working for the U.S. Army. And this is the letter he received from the U.S. Embassy. As you can see that it's on my end, it's not so obvious, but it says there is a cross there. It says terrorism related grounds, and no waiver is available for the grounds of Imbig, I can't see that word. Ineligibility, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's ironic that this guy got these letters for some reason. Like I talked to him. Like he said, like on what basis they made this decision and they're making me a terrorist. Like, what's the proof with them? And um, through his captains he worked with, as I said earlier, we contacted the U.S. Embassy, but we got no response from them. And it wasn't just those two people. Um, Lots of other Afghans are separated and they're scattered around the globe. Some of them during the evacuation, they flew directly to the US, and others went to the other allied countries. But mostly when, like as I said, the Zadran example I gave, he was on duty at that time and the US government fell. He was evacuated, obviously, to the US, but he left his children. He couldn't go to pick up his children. And that was the case to so many people. And their families, they have to leave behind, especially women and children. At 21 years old, Mr. Nizami was married 3 months before landing on the US soil in an evacuation plan, leaving his wife behind. Nizami's dad was a platoon leader of the US-backed Afghan Special Forces. He still lived here and about more than 2 years. There is no update on his wife's case. Like, nobody knows when she's gonna come. Another example is an intelligence chief who worked for the US Army for 17 years. Mr. Tucker came to the US, leaving his family behind. He's a little funny. He said that even though he is okay during the day, he has people to talk to, he has work, but in the night he can't sleep. He has like nightmares. He's missing his wife. This is the Mr. Tucker, the guy with the round cap on his head and white clothing. Yusuf Sherzad immigrated to the US in 2015 and struggled with the immigration system since then. He had served as an international military student and a liaison between the US Army, the Afghan military, and police. His asylum case was approved in 2022, but there is no sign of when his family would receive visas. I have 4 children, and nearly a decade of separation has left me hopeless. I cannot return to Afghanistan, and they cannot come here. That's what he told me. And these are his children, 1 son, 3 girls, and the picture is a decade old. These are now grown-ups, teenagers. Sponsoring a family member. So the USCIS has a policy for sponsorship of family members, but most Afghans are not qualified because most of them work on minimum wages. So you need to have a certain amount of income to sponsor someone. And most of these people, they cannot afford, they do not have enough money to sponsor their own families. So with the final results, I will say that these people were promised security because of their job with the US Army, because they supported what they brought to Afghanistan. So I will say they shouldn't further delay the promise that the US government did with these brave Afghan men and women. And now it is the time to honor the mission essential personnel, the title that the U.S. Government or the U.S. Army has given them. That's the. I know I spend a lot of time on my own crazy story, but these were just a few examples to show you guys what is happening in this area. And it's not just in Albany or in the capital region, it's in the entire country. These few examples were just to show you guys what's happening with those people who served the US, with the US Army and what is their condition right now. So how can we help? All of you are here. Most of you guys are academics, teachers, and students. I know people would say like, oh, I cannot do this. I'm just a person. I have no influence with the government. I cannot do much. But I'm telling you, you can do a lot. Personally, I do not believe in violence. I do not believe in blocking roads and shouting in front of government buildings. I think that approach is outdated and ineffective. But what we can do right now is is to write. I strongly believe on writing and storytelling. So, as I said, you guys are more qualified than me. I'm doing it that way, and I need you guys' help to do it the same way. You guys could do a much more a better job than me. Write to your local politician or even to national leaders. Write to your local news organization or to something like a bigger platform like New York Times or Washington Post or something. Or you can even write a book if you can, like meeting one single person. I promise the Afghans are so full of stories that they can fill the entire volumes, and they're good enough that they can become bestsellings. If you think that you cannot do like writing, you are good in social media, um, post on social media. I mean, you guys can do that through your own through the comfort of your home. You can do that from your phone. If you think you are better in speaking, organize an event. Like a community event or maybe something bigger. And that I believe if we all get together, that will help a lot and will help our other fellow human beings come out of their sufferings. And that's all I have to say here. And I will thank you again for coming here today and listening to the presentation. And I hope whatever I have shared here is I didn't offend anyone, and I'm hoping that everybody here will help. Thank you so much. And I will take a question if anyone have a question. Thank you.
Forward to the microphone with questions.
Imran Khan, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I have two questions. The first part of your speech, you said that when I went to the mosque, when I read the Quran, everywhere they said that non-Muslims should be killed.
I didn't say that. Should be killed.
They said that. Go to the hell, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
As two different, goes to hell. But I've read the Quran more than 10 times because I heard from many people that they say the same thing. But it's completely against that. Because in chapter 1, verse 62, yeah, I found it here. I said, any believer, it doesn't matter, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or anybody who is doing good, something good, they have a reward, which is heaven. And the second part about Mr. Haidari said, did they write, the US Embassy write the letter directly that you are connected to the terrorist or you are a part of the terrorist group? Because his case is rejected, you say that.
Yeah, thank you. They're great questions. So if you remember, I said during the later generations, the religion drew its own circle, which was wide enough for people to breathe, to live a good life. So I know what the verse I exactly remember. It says that indeed those who believes, it says to Muslims, and those who believe, who are Christians and Jews and Sabi'in is a kind of Christian. Is that the verse you are? Yeah, okay. So on the day of judgment, they will not be grieving, and they will not have any worry on them, something like that. Yeah, the translation is close enough. That's what I'm saying, that there is a lot of room in the original text for salvation. There is a lot of room, but people like that verse, when there is no indication in the Quran that says that, oh, I'm talking about those people who later converted to Islam. This thing was added to the text, that if they don't convert to Islam, this verse does not apply to them. But in Quran and Hadith, there is no indication. Did I answer your question? No? Okay. Yeah. I will say in the Quran there is no evidence for that. There is a bigger circle. What I'm saying is that there is a bigger circle, that people, there is a lot of room for salvation in the Quran. But the scholars wouldn't agree on that. That's what I'm saying. Like from the Quran, when you read it by large, I will say, or read the explanation of the Quran, you will come on the conclusion that those who are non-Muslims are destined for eternal hell. But I know the original text is different than what the explanation is, but that's what we see. And for your other question, they didn't give him an explanation to Mustafa Haidari if he is a terrorist. He didn't give any other explanation except the document that I showed. That's the only thing he received from the U.S. Embassy.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm asking this question not because I want to, like, there's so many examples of families not being together. Has there been successes as well? And what's, like, where families have been reunited, and what made that possible? Maybe, I'm asking that because maybe we can make that happen more.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question, but I hadn't seen even a single person who is being reunited with the family. I had not seen anyone, unfortunately. Any other question? Yeah.
I'll speak loud, and you can repeat the question maybe for the recording. I'm curious how much of what you were able to do in Afghanistan for whatever armies from your education in Afghanistan, and how much did you have to learn just yourself to be able to get that job?
It's a good question. Before becoming an interpreter, I was a security guard with the U.S. Army. And I could speak, from school, I could speak a little bit of English. And the security guard position worked like we will have to have one Afghan in the guard check and one the Americans. And I was lucky enough to be with the Americans all the time because I could speak a few words. And I would talk to them, and I improved my English inside the base to become an interpreter. That's why they promoted me to become one. Then they say you have the ability to speak, to interpret. I guess we are all good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.